So Season 6 has been out for a couple weeks. There's been like an update patch for it to kind of fix some of the bigger issues, but it still has garnered probably at least like from what I can gather, the most hate of any season to date. Now, obviously back in seasons like 1 and 2, it was just like a little bit of a content drought, and that was why people were moving to play other games. But it seems like people are actually pretty angry about the changes that were made. And when I say people, I'm talking about mostly pros. A lot of casual players see the game in a very different light. So I want to just go over some of like the main things that the pros are really angry about and talk about like from my perspective and I guess my opinion, whether or not there's some validity to that, and try to shed some light for the average player on what it's like on this side of playing the game where you play it for content, because I think there's a pretty big like disparity between casual players, like people who boot up for like a couple games a night after they come home from work or school or whatever, and people who play because they have to create content. And when I say have to, for me, I don't have to. I do it because I enjoy doing YouTube. But for some of these people, it's actually like their full-time job. So yeah, like they have to do it. And a lot of people will just respond to that and be like, oh, well, you're blessed to be in that position, so you don't get to complain. And that's not really something that's fair to say. Like, saying just because somebody's achieved their dreams, it doesn't mean that there's still like bad aspects of it. But we're kind of getting off topic here, rambling a little bit. It's still on topic, but I want to break it down into the 3 things that I'm going to talk about for Season 6, which is the new energy weapon meta, the new time to kill, and changes to shields. Now, the first thing that we're just going to get right into is this new energy weapon meta. Now, I really like the Volt, and I've always liked the Havoc. I think the changes that have been made to the Havoc are really good. Bringing the turbocharger back, at least for me, is a little bit iffy. I thought the Havoc was doing just fine without that buff, but the main problem that just about everybody has is the devotion. And this is just something that is combined with what we're going to talk about later, this lower time to kill and like the lesser shields, all these kind of tie in together. And I think this is why it's such a miserable experience for people who are trying to play at a higher level, because by introducing the devotion and by lowering the time to kill, you're essentially boosting everybody to the same level. It's kind of like the difference between like equality and equity, if that makes sense. I'll put that up on screen for you. There's like a cartoon that you've probably seen 1 billion times on Instagram. But like equality, like the one on the left, is there being weapons around for everybody. Anyone can pick up the armor, anyone can pick up the weapons. It's just who gets to it first. Whereas equity is trying to like flatten the skill curve. It's trying to flatten like the amount of hours that people have put in so that everybody is kind of on the same level. And as somebody who's put in 15, 16, 1700 hours, it does feel really bad. And some of these people, I'm sure, like these pro players like Nicewig and Zeus, have probably put in like between 4,000 and 5,000 hours, and they've gotten so good with these weapons, and it just feels like Apex is trying to condense everyone into the lobby into like the same skill level by adding back the devotion, not nerfing the Mastiff, just like little stuff that's very frustrating to play against. And it just seems like they're continually nerfing weapons that have high skill caps, like the Wingman and the R99, and even to some extent by putting the Peacekeeper in the crate and bringing the Mastiff out, they were essentially doing that. It's a lot more difficult to use the Peacekeeper than it is the Mastiff, because you actually have to hit your shots in order to do damage with the Peacekeeper. But moving on to the time to kill, one of the things that brought me into Apex is how long the time to kill was, because it felt good being able to take some shots, have like a trade with the people that you're fighting against, and then retreat, heal up, and just kind of like have a war of attrition, whittle each other down, that kind of thing. It seems like Apex is moving away from that more into like honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. Sometimes when I'm playing Apex now, it feels like I'm playing like Warzone, or it feels like I'm playing like COD Team Deathmatch. Sometimes I'll go up against somebody and I'll be dead before I even know like what's happening. Like with the AWOL, with Sheila, and then like completely separate from that, just with the Mastiff, the Devotion, even to some extent the Volt, it just feels like you get melted before you even know where you're getting shot from. And that just doesn't really feel like Apex. And that's combined with the longer lobby loading loading times. Now, this isn't gonna be all negative. I'm just getting the arguments in that these pro players are making, and then towards the end we're gonna like combat these a little bit. But the last one is the shield change. Now, this goes hand in hand with the time to kill. They've nerfed essentially every shield, including the gold shield, and there's not really too much to say on that. It's just basically that, yeah, just the fact is that, you know, purple and gold shields are now 75 extra health, and red shields are the extra 100. So do pro players have a point when they're complaining about this stuff? From their point of view, yes. From their perspective, yes. But from the game as a whole, it's hard, right? It's hard to say, because if you're listening to people who only care about having very diverse skill gaps, if you're only concerned about like prioritizing content for people who are playing it 10, 12 hours a day, you're gonna ruin the game for the average player. That's why I think, at least for me personally, I don't find it very fun to just boot up Valorant and play a couple games, or boot up CSGO and play a couple games, because the skill cap is so high that it's really for exclusively a very competitive group of people, and that's not really who Apex is pandering for, if that makes sense. They're more concerned, at least at this point, with just having a game that's enjoyable for the average person, for the person who is loading in and they're just gonna play a couple games after school, after they finish their homework, that kind of thing. But, you know, this isn't really helping that, in my opinion. There are a lot of other things that they could change if they're gonna, you know, if they really want people to be satisfied with Apex, they need to do two things, okay? Like, Respawn, if you're listening, pick out the pen and paper. They need to do two things, maybe three, if they're feeling really generous. But they need a rotating arcade system, and they need looser guidelines on SBMM. And that's really, honestly, it. Now, if I were in charge of the game, I'd put the devotion back in the crate ASAP. Like, please just take it out of the game. I know people will be angry because they spent money on skins for it, but nobody wants to get squad wiped by a noob with a devotion. Like, that's facts, okay? There's not a single person who boots up Apex and they're like, oh, I cannot wait to run into a squad of people with devotions and mastiffs tonight. But that's really, I just wanted to kind of like shed some light on what it's like from a content creator's perspective, and how like it is very frustrating being paired up with people in pubs lobbies who are like very similar level as you, with lower time to kill. You know, you don't have as much time to react, you don't have time to retreat and heal and plan out the attack, that kind of thing. So let me know what you guys think. Are you enjoying Season 6? Do you think that the 2 or 3 changes that I talked about would benefit the game? And are you in agreement with the pros, or are you more leaning towards like the casual side of things that I was describing? That's going to be it for me for today though, guys. So thank you so much. We are finally getting back to the regular schedule, so I can upload a whole lot more and I can be live streaming more. So get excited for that. Get ready for that. If you want to help me get to 30,000 subscribers, you can hit that red subscribe button right now, right underneath this video, and I'd really appreciate that. But until tomorrow, guys, take it easy.